On our newscast tonight, it's confirmed that President Park Geun-hye will sit down next week with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe for the first time since both leaders took office. They'll be accompanied by U.S. President Barack Obama. The 2014 Nuclear Security Summit is right around the corner. That doesn't give Korean lawmakers much time to pass a related nuclear security bill, something that's been awaiting approval for 2 years now. While the U.S. rallies to punish Russia for its annexation of Crimea, Moscow puts its foot on the gas for officially taking control of the peninsula. Stay with us for these stories and more.
당신의 유럽은 어디였나요?
Excellence in flight. Korean Air.
It is 5 a.m. in New York, 10 in The Hague, and 6 on a Friday evening here in Seoul. Welcome to Early Edition at 6. I'm Conn-young.
And I'm Daniel Che. Thank you for joining us.
Our top story and in the spotlight this evening, we delve into what's on the agenda for President Park Geun-hye during her upcoming visits to the Netherlands and Germany.
During her week-long trip, the Korean president will attend the 2014 Nuclear Security Summit in The Hague and then make a state visit to Germany.
Now for details, we now connect live to our presidential office correspondent Choi You-sun at the News Center. Now, You-sun, what does President Park have in mind at leaving for Europe this time around?
Hi, Conn-young, Daniel. Security and inter-Korean reunification are expected to be the two main themes of President Park's upcoming two-nation tour. At her first stop in The Hague, President Park, as the host of the most recent Nuclear Security Summit in 2012, will give an opening speech alongside UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. This year's conference, the third of its kind, will look at how much each participating nation has followed up on its nuclear reduction and security pledges and discuss cooperation measures to sustain the level of nuclear security. In her address, the Korean president will emphasize that every member of the international community is responsible for preventing nuclear terrorism. President Park will be the first Korean president to visit the Netherlands and will hold summit talks with Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte. They're expected to focus on boosting cooperation in the areas of energy, science and technology, and nuclear power.
Now, You-sun, you had some great news for us earlier today that the leaders of Korea and Japan will in fact meet on the sidelines of the nuclear summit alongside their U.S. counterpart.
Right. Speculation has been brewing over whether President Park will sit down for talks with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. And Korea's foreign ministry earlier said the two countries will soon meet to discuss resolving Japan's wartime sexual slavery issue. But many experts say it's too premature to expect ties between Seoul and Tokyo to improve significantly after just one summit meeting. Friday's announcement comes after President Park recently welcomed Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's reaffirmation of Japan's past apology for military sexual enslavement during World War II. The two leaders haven't officially met for summit talks since both of them took office more than a year ago. Bilateral ties have been strained, especially after Abe's visit late last year to a war shrine that honors several Class A war criminals. It's widely viewed that Korea caved into U.S. pressure to come to the three-way talks. Washington wants strong trilateral ties with both its Northeast Asian allies to ensure regional stability and cope with potential security threats from China. That pressure was likely intensified ahead of U.S. President Barack Obama's visits to Seoul and Tokyo next month. While some experts say the upcoming dialogue could be used to break the impasse between Seoul and Tokyo, others say it would be far-fetched to expect an immediate thawing of relations.
What Korea wants from Japan is an acknowledgement of the illegality of its past colonial rule, an apology from the government, the cabinet, and rightful compensation, as well as restoring the reputation of the victims.
It's also doubtful whether Tokyo will not just speak, but act sincerely about its past atrocities. The Abe cabinet still intends to review the 1993 apology for coercing women into sexual slavery and will likely make further claims to Korea's Dokdo Island in school text next month. In any case, the main agenda at next week's three-way summit are slated to be ways to curb North Korea's nuclear program and seeking a resolution to the crisis in Ukraine. Choi You-sun, Arirang News.
Now, You-sun, President Park has talked quite often recently about laying the groundwork for a unified Korean peninsula. You know, the government here has even gone so far as to launch a special committee to prepare for the time-consuming, costly process. Now, keeping Germany's experience with unification in mind, the president's state visit there carries symbolic significance, I would assume.
It certainly does. There's a great amount of attention being paid towards the president's speech at a university in Dresden. That speech's theme is widely expected to be about her reunification drive.
President Park expressing her intent on reunification in Germany will be declaring to the world that South Korea will actively prepare for reunification and realize it.
The South Korean leader will also meet with German Chancellor Angela Merkel. President Park is expected to convey her policy goals for reunification and ask for Germany's help in accomplishing them. She will also meet with a number of former German officials who were at the center of reunification to learn from their experiences. Having weathered the economic and social aftermath of the historic event, the unified Germany stands today as a leading nation in the European Union. President Park, who earlier this year said a unified Korea would be a bonanza, will be asking how Germany got to where it is today. Not only from an economic perspective, though, the president, in line with a trust-building policy with North Korea, will also be looking for ideas on improving relations on the Korean peninsula. Guys?
Well, it's going to be a tiring week for President Park Geun-hye. And of course, in terms of the long overdue Korea-Japan summit, we hope it's a drop in the ocean, but hopefully there will be some great ripple effects. Thank you for that, You-sun.
And we look forward to your reports next week from the Presidential Press Corps.
Not facing the apologize.
We're all destroyed.
Digging deeper, getting to the bottom of stories that impact your life. Talking with you on air and online, connecting you with experts on the world's most pressing issues. News and current affairs at its best with Conn-young and Daniel Che on Early Edition at 6.
Proposal for talks on holding regular reunions for families separated by the Korean War. Their reason.
Meanwhile, ahead of President Park's visit to the Netherlands, Korea's National Assembly failed to pass revisions to the nuclear security bill this Friday, with the ruling Saenuri Party and the main opposition Democratic Party blaming each other for the holdup. Ruling party lawmakers are eager to pass a revision to an act that would complete the ratification process for 2 global treaties on nuclear terrorism and nuclear materials. DP lawmakers say they will only pass it if the ruling party agrees to pass other pending bills. Now, if the nuclear security revision is not approved on Monday, President Park will attend next week's nuclear security summit in The Hague empty-handed. Watchers say this would be an embarrassment for Korea, which hosted the previous summit 2 years ago. One day after President Park Geun-hye made her case for cutting down on excessive regulations, Finance Minister Hyun Oh-suk followed up with the leadership of the ruling Saenuri Party to make sure her plans are carried out. Hyun urged lawmakers on Friday to pass legislation related to the president's push. They say they would begin working on getting the bills approved in April. The finance minister also promised that the Park administration would coordinate closely with the National Assembly in its push to eliminate red tape, which the government says is stifling economic growth. Meanwhile, the South Korean government today was forced to play the role of debt collector. That is because North Korea missed the Monday deadline to pay off $8.6 million of a loan provided back in 2007. Well, if history is any indicator, the South should not expect a prompt payment. Kim Hyun-bin reports.
Seoul is calling on Pyongyang to repay millions of dollars in loans that were borrowed years ago. A South Korean unification ministry official said Friday that the communist regime was due to make a payment of $8.6 million on Monday, as part of an $80 million loan given to the North back in 2007. The loan came in the form of raw materials that were used to produce clothing, footwear, and soap. With interest included, Pyongyang is due to pay $86 million to the South over the next 10 years. South Korea's state-run Export-Import Bank sent a message to the North last month, informing it of its payment obligation. But Pyongyang has yet to reply. It's not the first time Pyongyang has missed a loan payment. They've missed several deadlines to pay down $724 million of food loans provided by South Korea in 2000 and 2007. All told, the communist regime is due to repay the South over $931 million by 2037, including principal and interest, for food and raw material loans. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Some positive news for the Korean Air Force. Lockheed Martin says the price of its F-35 fighter jets will drop over the next 5 years to as low as $80 million per plane. The American aerospace company said Friday that the cost is coming down because the level of production will be going up. Korea is set to finalize a plan to buy 40 of the radar-evading fighter jets to replace its aging fleet of F-4s and F-5s. The initial plan was to purchase 60, but that was scaled back due to budget constraints. While the price dip would appear to be welcome news for officials here, they are cautious, calling the price reduction estimates a bit too optimistic. The 10th round of free trade talks between Korea and China wrapped up on this Friday. Unfortunately, the two sides were unable to make any significant progress this time around, agreeing only to try again in the next round. Our Conn-young reports.
There were no major breakthroughs on the Korea-China FTA, says Korea's chief FTA negotiator Woo Tae-hee. After wrapping up the talks, which took place over 5 days in Ilsan, north of Seoul, Woo told reporters the two sides were only able to agree to disagree.
We demanded that China lift tariffs on our manufacturing goods in the early stage, while China asked for an opening of Korea's agricultural market. The two sides were in a tug-of-war, and not much progress could be made.
But he added it doesn't mean the talks were falling apart. Seoul and Beijing are still in the process of understanding each other's needs, and they will meet again in May or June for another round of talks in China. During this round, the two discussed tariff concessions on various goods, including items classified as both sensitive and highly sensitive. China is Korea's top trading partner, with analysts predicting that Seoul's GDP will increase by up to 3% in the 10 years after the deal takes effect. But farmers in Korea oppose the deal, saying it will devastate Korea's agricultural sector. Another issue of contention related to the deal is illegal fishing by Chinese fishermen in Korean waters. Korean trade officials worry that fish illegally caught by Chinese fishermen in Korea's West Sea could end up enjoying tariff benefits. Trade officials say the issue has not been an official subject of debate during the negotiations yet, but added that Korea will continue to raise the issue so the two can formally discuss the matter in the coming rounds of talks. Nahyun-kyung, Arirang News, Sejong.
Now, Moscow is speeding up its legal annexation of Crimea. Russia's lower house of parliament has overwhelmingly approved a treaty to annex Crimea from Ukraine. This as the United States and Russia exchange tit-for-tat sanctions. Arirang News Foreign Affairs correspondent Hwang Sung-hee reports.
It was a vote of 444 against 1 as Russia's lower house of parliament on Thursday approved a treaty to annex Crimea from Ukraine. The upper house is expected to complete ratification on Friday, and President Vladimir Putin and Crimean leaders will ink it early next week.
The decision to accept Crimea into the Russian Federation complies with the international law, including the principle of sovereign equality written on the UN Charter and the right to self-determination.
As Russian forces take over more Ukrainian military bases in Crimea, Ukraine is speeding up its withdrawal of soldiers. In parts of Crimea, residents are lining up to apply for new passports.
We are in Russia. We are Russian citizens now. What do we need Ukrainian passports for? We will exchange them with great pleasure.
It won't be worse, it will be better. It says a lot that the young are in support of Crimea joining Russia.
UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon met with President Putin Thursday in Moscow, urging for a peaceful settlement to the crisis. The UN chief travels to Kiev on Friday to deliver the same message.
The first and foremost, most important way is for Russia and Ukraine sit down together and engage in direct and constructive dialogue.
This comes as U.S. President Barack Obama expanded sanctions to take in a Russian bank and some high-profile Russian billionaires with close ties to Putin. Russia also announced travel bans against 9 prominent Americans, including Senators Harry Reid and John McCain. Hwang Sang-hee, Arirang News.
And the European Union has also slapped travel bans and acid freezes on 12 more people, bringing the number of Russians and Ukrainians facing EU sanctions to 33. The 28-nation bloc said the names of the sanctions would be published Friday local time. Meanwhile, the international search for the missing Malaysian airliner resumed on this Friday, one day after Australian officials announced that satellite images showed possible debris from the plane in the Indian Ocean. Authorities are now scouring over the remote search area to try and locate the objects. Connie Lee has more.
It's called one of the most remote places on Earth. Over in the southern Indian Ocean, military planes set out again on Friday, scouring 35,000 square kilometers of ocean in search of possible debris from the missing Malaysia Airlines plane.
It's about the most inaccessible spot that you could imagine on the face of the Earth. But if there is anything down there, we will find it. We owe it to the families of those people to do no less.
The search on Thursday, hampered by bad weather, turned up nothing. But once Friday came, the Australia-led search mission sent 5 aircraft back to the area, some 2,300 kilometers away from Australia's southern coast.
We've been throwing everything we've got at that area to try to learn more about what this debris might be.
Satellite images of 2 objects in the ocean were released on Thursday. They are said to be of reasonable size, the largest being 24 meters long. Investigators say the latest findings are a credible lead, but it could take several days to determine whether the objects spotted by satellite did come from Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. It's been 13 days since the Malaysian flight mysteriously went missing. So for families of the missing passengers, it's been an excruciating wait for answers.
Of course we, the families, want to hear new updates. Tonight, the government didn't give us anything new at all. My hope is that my son is still alive and safe, and that all the passengers are alive.
The Boeing 777 was headed to Beijing from Kuala Lumpur when it disappeared in the early hours of March 8th. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
Over in Thailand, the country's constitutional court ruled Friday that a general election held last month was invalid. The court has now ordered new elections. Officials say they annul the results of the February 2nd poll because nationwide voting did not take place in every constituency on the same day. The election called by embattled Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra ran into problems after protesters blocked candidates from registering in 28 constituencies. The latest ruling comes after weeks of anti-government protests where demonstrators are hoping to oust the prime minister, who is accused of corruption. And moving on to some culture, on stage this weekend, a dance inspired by a famous Parisian bar, Asian statues of Buddha, a concert featuring Korea's favorite song. It's not as strange as it may sound, as you'll see in this preview by our Park Ji-won.
The Korean National Contemporary Dance Company brings its modern dance piece Pulsang to the stage this weekend. Pulsang is the Korean word for a Buddhist statue, but it sounds the same as the Korean word for pity. The company delves into the double meaning of the title with iconic dance moves adapted from traditional dances from various Asian countries. Renowned Korean DJ Soulscape and prominent pop artist Choi You-sun also helped create the performance.
This work shows how traditional Korean and Asian culture, represented as statues of the Buddha, have been twisted and transformed in the process of modernization. The work was inspired after a visit to Buddha Bar in Paris, where Buddha statues were used as trendy interior items.
The work will be presented in France next year to commemorate the year of cultural exchange between Korea and France. And on another stage, regional variations on Korea's most beloved song Arirang are showcased along with traditional Korean dance. Arirang is a traditional Korean folk song that is on UNESCO's World Intangible Heritage for Humanity list, and there are thousands of variations on the lyrics and melody.
Out of the thousands of Arirang variations, we chose the most representative and well-known versions, the ones that are still widely sung in the country, such as Miryang Arirang, Jindo and Jeongseon Arirang.
This special performance was organized by the Senior Public Diplomacy Group with support from the Foreign Ministry to further promote the song and for the sake of cultural diversity and preservation. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, there's a new face on Seoul's skyline. After years of development and hundreds of millions of dollars, Tongdaemun Design Plaza finally opened to the public on this Friday. Our Shin Se-min gives us a look at the architectural gem that has people talking.
It's like no other structure in the South Korean capital. This free-flowing, curved building that looks like a spaceship is Tongdaemun Design Plaza, and over 900 people, ranging from politicians and fashion designers, were on site Friday to welcome it. Seoul Mayor Park Geun-hye in his welcoming speech said the structure is an architectural gem. He acknowledged the building's high price tag of $460 million, but said it would bring about over $12 billion in production and employment in just 2 decades. Designed by the Pritzker-winning Iraq-British architect Zaha Hadid, the building is shrouded in over 45,000 aluminum panels. The world's largest asymmetrical freeform building, the total space amounts to over 85,000 square meters. The structure, with no straight supporting pillars, has people in awe.
I came out to see the opening ceremony of the building, and it looks like a spaceship has landed in the center of Seoul. The flow of the architecture is unique in its own way.
Tongdaemun Design Plaza is located in the center of Korea's trendy Tongdaemun Fashion District. It'll serve many purposes, with a number of exhibition spaces scattered over 4 floors and 3 underground levels. Korea's national treasures, along with a design exhibit by Hadid, are on display in 8 different exhibition rooms. To showcase Seoul's new star, the capital will extend city tour buses and airport buses services. Some 6,000 to 7,000 tourists visit the district of Tongdaemun each day, and the Seoul metropolitan government envisions this new landmark as a new cultural hub for the South Korean capital. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
It's been a lovely spring day here in the capital. For a check on the forecast, let's go over to our Michelle Park at the Weather Center. Michelle.
Good evening, guys. Now, today was warm and sunny without much wind. We couldn't have asked for a better day.
And can we look forward to more of the same this weekend?
We can actually. The weekend temperature will rise as high as 19 degrees. However, there will be more than 15 degrees temperature gaps between the mornings and nights. So make sure you are well prepared for that. Now, other than that, we can expect a nice sunny day nationwide tomorrow. Now, going over to our temperature readings, Seoul tops out at 3 degrees in the morning and gets up to 16 in the afternoon. Meanwhile, the southern cities such as Daegu and Busan will get up to 19 and 16 degrees. Now moving over to other regions, Jeju Island peaks over to 15 degrees, Dokdo makes it up to 11, while Mankumgang tops out at 2. Well, that's all for now. I'm Michelle Park, and back to you guys.
And we have this piece of news just coming in that following the decision by Russia's lower house, Russia's the Senate has also approved, upper house has approved the bill on annexing Crimea. And we will have more updates on that story in our later newscast. But that is our broadcast for this Friday evening. Thank you for watching. I'm Conn-young.
And this has been Daniel Choi. Thank you for watching. Do have a great weekend, and we'll have more for you next Monday.